CRUD app. We're going to add a button on each line of the list, one for updating and one for deleting the item on that line. So first we'll add the update, and that's going to call a function called update and pass it the item on that line, and that in turn will go and call the s_db data service and update that line. And we're going to do the same thing for the delete. So the function will be called delete, and it will pass it the item. So we'll go into our list.page.ts and add those two functions. As you remember, we pass the item to each function. We're going to add the parameter here. And for now, we're going to display the item that's either being updated or deleted, just to check that that part works. We're going to align the line with the buttons and wrap everything in an item and columns, and we're going to add a class so that the color of delete will be red. And now if we go in and click on list, we can see our list with each item having an update and a delete button. And if we click on update, we can see it's past the item that we want to update. And if we click on delete, we can see in this case the item that we'd like to delete. So now back in our code, let's start off with the delete. That'll be a bit easier. We're going to call a new function in the s_db service, and that will be called delete, and we're going to pass it the object that we want to delete. And in this case, under the promise, very simply, we write the object.destroy, and that is going to remove the object from the class. So let's see how that works, and remember, this is all being updated in Memcache as well. So as soon as we click on delete, let's say from Paris, it disappears from our list. And if we go to the Parse dashboard and we click on F5 for refresh, we can see that Paris no longer exists in the class. And now let's take care of the update. First thing to remember is that when we do either an add of a new object or an update of an existing object in the class, in both cases we're going to need to display the alert control window. So both the new and the update functions will be calling the this.win function. So if we want to differentiate between the two, we're going to have to make a few changes in the win function. The first is the header is going to be a variable so that the text will be dependent on the button that we've pressed, either the new or the update button. We're also going to add an initial value for the input field, because when we're coming from the new button, it should be empty, and if we're coming from an update button, it will be the value of the city name of that object that we want to update. So now in the new function, we're going to set the variable of the header to add a new city. And in the update function, the value of the header will be update city name. And in the new function, the value of the variable val, which is the initial value, is going to be empty. And in the update function, it's going to be the value of the item.attributes.cityname. And since they're closely related, I'm going to put them next to each other. And there's one more place where we need to differentiate between the new item and an updated item. We noticed earlier that each parse object has its unique ID. The object ID is automatically generated when a new parse object is created, and we need to provide this object ID to parse when performing an update. So in the update function here, we're adding a new variable called object, we're going to pass the item to it, and we're going to use the object ID later on when we perform the actual update. So we'll define the object. And in the save function, which is performed for both the new and the update functions, we're going to differentiate between the new and the update by checking if the variable object exists. As you recall, we set its value to the item in the update function, and we're going to set it to null in the new function. So in the case that the object exists, in other words, if we're in an update, we're going to set another parameter in dbparms.data, and we're going to call it data.id to equal the object ID. I realize there could be better ways of implementing this differentiation, so feel free because there's always room for improvement. And as I mentioned earlier, in the new function, we're going to set the object to null. And then again, in the save function, we'll be setting the object ID when coming from the update function only. So let's check how that turns out. We go to our list and let's update. So first of all, notice that when we clicked on Brussels, it already came with the default Brussels, and we're going to add sprouts. And notice Brussels sprouts. It's been an honor and a privilege to have created this course for you. Please feel free to contact me if you've got any questions or suggestions. I wish you all the best, and for the last time,